apparently the Rangers never even made a formal offer to their elite closer, Kirby Yates, losing him to the Dodgers. On today's show, we're talking about why that was predictable, frustrating, but ultimately might just be okay. Talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about the Rangers never making an offer to Kirby Yates and why that might end up being okay. 3 Rangers prospects in the top 50 prospects in baseball, according to Baseball America, and the best 1-year range. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, the Rangers are not bringing back Kirby Yates. He has not officially, and not even the financial terms have been disclosed of the deal, but he is just about officially a Los Angeles Dodger, coming off of a career season, 33 saves with the Texas Rangers, a 3.3 baseball reference WAR, a 1.17 ERA, and was the second best reliever in all of baseball. Would have been the best if not for a historic season by former Ranger great Emmanuel Clase. But the Rangers are not bringing him back. And while that's incredibly frustrating, I think the most frustrating part is that the Rangers apparently never even made a formal offer to bring back Kirby Yates. They saw where this market was going and they said, peace out. Thanks for that 1 year. It was awesome. Would love to do it again sometime, but we're apparently not going to want to afford you. Not that they can't afford him, but because the priority is the luxury tax and avoiding it at all costs, because God forbid the Rangers pay an extra $2 or $3 or $4 million in taxes to be competitive in a year where you have a healthy Jacob DeGrom and theoretically a healthy couple of superstars that are worth $500 million in the middle of your infield. You know, the $2 million or $4 million luxury tax is really what's most important this offseason. But again, it's kind of predictable, but not even making an offer before the Rangers had already committed, 3 years, $75 million to Nathan Eovaldi, or the other commitments that they made, the other many, many moves that they made in this bullpen. Not even making an offer is just incredibly frustrating and embarrassing. But also maybe it's okay, because all the last few off seasons, I think if Chris Young listens to this show, my reaction to losing Yates, he might just call me a whiny little crybaby. And I think he might actually have a point. Because for the last several seasons, I've had it the opposite way. I've been saying, hey, this is the smart way to build a bullpen. Never spend a whole bunch of money on a closer. Look at that Josh Hader debacle. Ha ha ha. Astros paying big money to closers feels insane because nobody's Mariano Rivera. He's gone. He's not coming back to Major League Baseball. And nobody else is that trustworthy in the 9th inning. So taking a whole bunch of littler swings and hoping that a couple of them are amazing and only 1 or 2 of them are bad, that's the way to go. And that's exactly what the Rangers did this year. That's exactly how they built their bullpen. They made a bunch of littler swings, not a whole bunch of money committed to really anybody. I think it's $5.5 million for Chris Martin. That's the most that they paid anybody. Robert Garcia didn't cost a lot in terms of money, but he did cost Nathaniel Lowe. That was more of a reallocation of funds, but everybody else, Shawn Armstrong, Jacob Webb, Hoby Milner, none of them are making more than $2.5 million. The Rangers signed 4 different relievers. They traded for another, and they rebuilt the bulk of this bullpen to be deeper and better. And last year, they did kind of a similar thing. I mean, David Robertson wasn't exactly a hometown discount, was by no means a hometown discount, making around $11 million a year, but they took a big old swing on Kirby Yates, a massive swing, and they nailed it. They hit a home run, which opponents didn't do very much against Kirby Yates. $4.5 million for one of the best relievers in baseball. Absolutely brilliant move. And maybe they did it again with Chris Martin. Maybe not. Maybe Jacob Webb turns into something amazing. Maybe not. Maybe Robert Garcia has, a sub-2 ERA season. Maybe Hoby Milner has an incredible season. And who knows? But this was exactly how I said I wanted the Rangers to build their bullpen. But seeing it in action, seeing it actually taken to heart, I think it's mainly just knowing that there was an option to just make it what would have felt like a perfect offseason, or perfect enough. Adding Roki would have been nice, but apparently nobody is not going to the Dodgers. That's just how things go at this point. But if the Rangers wanted to, stay within the finances of, not paying $241 million, because Lord forbid a billionaire spend his money on something that actually improves other people's lives, but it's just seeing that it feels like they are one piece away in this bullpen, but maybe they're not. Maybe this bullpen is just fine. I mean, these are exactly the kind of moves that I was clamoring for, last offseason, hoping that the Rangers rebuilt their bullpen, which they had to do last offseason too, because in 2023, despite the 1 month of incredibleness from three relievers that pitched basically every game in that postseason run, the regular season bullpen was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare in that regular season. And in 2024, 2.5 of those relievers were incredible, and the rest were not very good. So the Rangers needed a lot more proven, veteran, at least okay bullpen arms, and they've done that. Jacob Webb is going to be that. Shawn Armstrong, Hoby Milner, Robert Garcia, Chris Martin, all of those are going to be 98% sure, at least okay. Two of them are probably going to be really, really good. One of them might be bad, but that's just the way relievers go. And spending a lot of money, I think, is the best way to get a closer, more so than trading for a closer. But really the best way is just to home grow one. And the Rangers have a lot of pretty solid pitching prospects. I mean, the farm system and the revolution of pitching development was fully in action, fully on display last year, with the massive progress between, guys like Rocker, like Leiter, like Alejandro Rosario, who is pretty universally now a top 100 prospect in baseball, which is such a cool thing for a guy who was a 5th round pick with, not a whole lot of hype, a lot of questions surrounding him in the draft, and the Rangers turned him into one of the 10 best right-handed pitching prospects in baseball. That's not just me saying that. We'll talk about who all's saying that in the next segment. But the rubber's going to hit the road this year of, that pitching development being theoretical versus, the teams that are actually really, really good at pitching development, because they've done it at the big league level, not just made some big strides in their minor league system. Teams like the Mariners, like the Rays, like the Guardians, like the Dodgers as well. The Rangers need to start doing that at the big league level. And there are a lot of different pitching prospects I've talked about all offseason that could jump up into this pen as early as the first half of this season, if not, right out of the gate, and definitely in the second half of the season to make this bullpen more fortified. But I don't think trading for a closer is the right move. I would have loved to have bring back Kirby Yates, but if this is the way the Rangers are going to go about building their pen, it's hard to blame them when it worked, in part, last year, and just doing more of what actually worked last year, and actually, shoring up these spots in the bullpen and taking a bunch of these little swings. What I said was the ideal way to build this bullpen. Here I am complaining, not a couple weeks later, about them actually doing what I wanted them to do. So, yeah, it's frustrating to lose Yates. Yeah, it might be nice to have somebody in this pen who has a proven track record as a closer, but how are you going to get a proven closer out of nowhere if you don't give somebody else the opportunity? And these guys have been solid big league relievers, and the age of having a Mariano Rivera, having a Neftali Feliz, having one of the Billy Wagner types, it's over. It's not happening. Relievers are much more replaceable now than they were. It's harder to get ones that are consistent from year to year to year. That's why David Robertson keeps making $10 million a year as his own agent, because he just says, hey, look, you see what I did? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again and again and again and again until I want to go and retire. And that's why the Rangers picking up bullpen pieces like they did, making this many moves for the bullpen, it's frustrating. It's the right way to do things, even if it's frustrating to lose Kirby Yates. Maybe it's just a little bit more frustrating that he's going to the Dodgers, who have plenty of good relievers and players already. Coming up, we're going to talk about the 3 Rangers prospects ranked in the top 50 prospects in all of baseball by Baseball America, and why now, not just in the bullpen, but in the rotation, is time for the rubber to meet the road on the Rangers improving their pitching development. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Gametime. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories last year was going to a baseball game, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to want to go to a baseball game in 2025 and make that one of my favorite memories. But getting tickets to those games can be tough unless you have Gametime. Gametime is the easiest way to get tickets to all the live events you're wanting to go to. Recently I was looking for tickets, and they've got Gametime Picks feature, which filters out all the fluff, and it shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different ticket sites. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be looking into what a year 2 breakout from Wyatt Langford might look like. I did a little bit of what this year might look like for Jacob DeGrom on yesterday's show. Had a lot of fun digging into all of that, all the precedent, and realizing that, oh yeah, Jacob DeGrom is basically unprecedented. But some news coming out this past week that there are 3 Rangers prospects in the top 100 of Baseball America. Prospect of their top 100 prospects in all of baseball. And not just are they in the top 100, they're in the top half, the top 50. The Rangers have 3 top 50 prospects in baseball, according to Baseball America. They have Kumar Rocker as the Rangers' best prospect, which I don't think anybody else does. I feel very confident that they are going to be the only ones that have that. I was torn between having him and Sebastian Walcott as my 1 and 2. I ended up going with Walcott as my number 1 prospect, but they have Walcott immediately following him as the number 21 prospect in all of baseball. They said that he could be one of the fast risers through their rankings, and that this time next year he might be one of the best the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. Baseball Prospectus had Walcott at number 10 overall. They had Rocker at 41 overall, and Alejandro Rosario coming in as the number 49 prospect in all of baseball, the 10th best right-handed pitching prospect. BP had him at number 72 in their top 100. I thought that they would have Rosario a little bit higher. I think if Grant had gotten some eyes on him in the Texas League, maybe that would have changed their minds. He might have jumped up a little bit higher. But 3 guys in the top 50 is nothing short of fantastic. I mean, this system doesn't quite have the depth that it had a year ago or 2 years ago. It doesn't quite have the top-end talent that it had at the beginning of or heading into 2024. There aren't 2 top 5 prospects in all of baseball in this system anymore, but hey, this is still a really, really good farm system. BA being that high on Rocker, having him at 20, I'm a little surprised that he was all the way down at 41 for Baseball Prospectus, and we'll see where he ends up in the rankings for MLB Pipeline. But it's not just BA that has, Rocker and Rosario as 2 of the top 10 right-handed pitching prospects in baseball. It's MLB Pipeline as well. Rocker comes in as the number 8 pitching prospect in all of baseball. Number 1 is, of course, Roki Sasaki. Don't love that he's on this list, even though he has not thrown a professional pitch stateside just yet. But hey, that's kind of how these things go. Brandon Sproat is the number 9 right-handed pitching prospect in all of baseball. And then Alejandro Rosario in there at number 10 pitching prospect in all of baseball. The only other team with multiple top 10 right-handed pitching prospects is is the Cincinnati Reds, with Chase Burns at number 6 and Rhett Lauder at number 7, just ahead of Kumar Rocker at 8. This is a sign of encouragement for Rangers fans, specifically ones who are as obsessed with the minor leagues as I am. This is something that you have not seen in Rangers prospect land. It just hasn't been a thing. It just hasn't at all. And here they are, 2 top 10 pitching prospects who maybe should even be a little bit higher. Rosario's definitely got some chance to climb if he dominates in Double-A the way he did in Low-A and High-A last year. Rocker is going to be off of this prospect list because he will lose prospect eligibility pretty quickly, hopefully. And if he makes the starting rotation out of camp, once you hit 50 innings, then you lose prospect status. You lose, that is your rookie season. That is going to be what it is. And I'm hoping that we get to see at least 50 innings, hopefully a lot more from Rocker this season. But this is an encouraging sign. And by the way, Sebastian Walcott ranks as the number 4 shortstop prospect in all of baseball. Not a whole lot of guys ahead of him. The only ones that are Carson Williams, who I believe is going to be the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. He's a shortstop prospect for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's a 21-year-old already in Double-A. Sebastian Walcott is an 18-year-old who made his Double-A debut last year, but I digress. Jordan Lawler, the former Dallas Jesuit standout and Diamondbacks prospect, who I think will finally be getting some regular time in the big leagues this year. Felt like he's been on the verge since 2023, but I think this is maybe finally the year that he gets to crack the big league roster and maybe make an everyday role. And then the only other shortstop prospect ahead of Bam Bam Sebastian Walcott is Marcelo Meyer, another former first-round pick in that 2021 class, where I thought the Rangers might be looking at him. I thought they might be looking at Lawler. They ended up going with Jack Leiter that year, but Meyer is in AAA. He's 22 years old with the Boston Red Sox, one of their many very talented prospects, one of the ones that I'm sure the White Sox were asking for in that big old deal for Garrett Crochet, but I don't think that Meyer was ever really thought about being included in that list. And then there's Sebastian Walcott. That's it. Those are the only ones that are ahead of him. He's ahead of a lot of other very talented shortstop prospects, but this is a big sign of respect from MLB Pipeline. I don't think that he is going to be as high as the number 10 prospect in their top 100 like he was on BP. Love that BP is so high on him. Love that anyone's so high on Walcott, because this kid has all the physical tools in the world, and I can't wait to see how well he puts them together in his first season in Double-A. But these pitching prospect rankings are good. They're a good sign. My ranking is talking about how many different pitching prospects made big steps forward. It's all great. It's fantastic, but it needs to actualize into the next step. It needs to actualize into results in the major leagues. The Rangers need help in this rotation in 2024. They're going to need some depth, because the guys who are listed as their opening day 5 in their rotation are Nathan Eovaldi, who's going to be 35 and has had a second Tommy John surgery. He is, like I talked about in yesterday's show, the number 1 example of thriving after your second Tommy John surgery. You have Jacob deGrom, who's going to be 37, also coming off of his second Tommy John surgery, has made a combined 9 starts in the big leagues the last 2 years. We'll see how much he actually gives them. Go listen to yesterday's show if you haven't already, talking about what to actually expect from DeGrom. And then you have Malley and Gray and Bradford. Malley, who's also first year fully recovered from Tommy John surgery. John Gray, who has missed a lot of time in his big league career, has not been the most durable guy. And Bradford, who was very good when he was on the hill last year, but had just a weird injury that kept him out for basically half the season. But I'm hoping he should be fairly durable next year. There's definitely some hope that he could get 30 starts and anywhere between 180 and maybe 200 innings. Maybe 200 is pushing it. Maybe nobody does 200 innings anymore. But those are the guys in this rotation. The Rangers are going to need somebody else to step up, because not all of these guys are going to make 30 starts. I hate to burst your bubble. Most of them probably aren't going to make 28. Maybe 3 of them make 25 starts. Maybe. I'm hoping that that's Eovaldi and DeGrom and Bradford of these 3. I think those are the ones that I feel most confident about them making at least or most hopeful that they make 25 starts with DeGrom. I mean, we'll see. But you're going to need some depth in there. You're going to need some more guys to step up. And one of those guys is probably going to be Rocker. We'll see exactly what kind of pitch count limit he's on, what kind of innings limit he's on. The Rangers apparently have not talked with him specifically about, what kind of a workload, innings-wise they are targeting for next year, but I'd imagine it's somewhere in the 100 to 125 inning range because he only pitched around 50 innings last year, which is more than DeGrom. But Rocker also hasn't thrown, 200 innings in any season yet in his career, like DeGrom has multiple times. And Jack Leiter is on the verge of, maybe making this rotation at a camp, or maybe he makes the bullpen and he's just a nasty, nasty reliever, and that's just what he is moving forward. And that's how the Rangers get their elite closer. But I don't see that happening out of camp. Maybe by the end of this year, if that's the Rangers think that he's trending that way, then that's fine. But guys like him, guys like Emiliano Teodo, mainly those two Vandy boys and Teodo are the ones that are just on the verge and going to need to make some big league starts this year. Teodo, I don't know if they need it, but they would very much like it. But that's what this Rangers pitching development staff needs, to get even more credibility, and not just credibility, just to get wins, which is the whole point of the development apparatus. All of the minor leagues, all of the everything around this is all about winning games and producing good quality big league players. The Rangers haven't quite done that just yet outside of Cody Bradford for an extended period of time, but hopefully this year they will get some Rangers who are here for the long term, not just one-and-done sensations. But speaking of one-and-done sensations, in the next segment, we're talking about the best one-year Rangers, including a Ranger that just signed with the Dodgers. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by SelectQuote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million, no medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedon. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. I'll be back on Monday again, hopefully with 5 shows next week, talking about, who knows? Who knows what at this point next week? Maybe the Rangers have made some big move. Maybe the Dodgers have signed, Alex Bregman or something crazy. Who knows what the heck's gonna happen between now and Monday. Now let's get into what was supposed to be the entirety of today's show, but then the more research I dug into, I realized there was not quite enough for an entire show about the best one-year Rangers. Because here's the thing about one-and-done players. Usually, if a player has an incredible season, the team is not going to let him just leave. Usually that's what happens. Or, these one-off deals, like of Marcus Semien with Toronto. I mean, if I was doing best one-year Blue Jays of all time, Marcus Semien would be a very, very easy number one. Came to Toronto, signed that one-year bet on himself deal, had one of the best seasons that any second baseman has ever had, as his first year as an everyday second baseman, finishes top 3 at MVP, has the most home runs any primary second baseman has had in a single season, and then both signs that 7-year deal with the Texas Rangers. Usually those guys, when they sign that 1-year deal and they have an incredible season, they stick around. But that's not the case for these guys. Now, the number one candidate that popped to my mind is Vladimir Guerrero. Not Vladito Jr., We'll see if he has a 1 year stint with the Rangers. I highly doubt that. But his dad had a heck of a 1 year stint with the Texas Rangers in 2010. After a long career spent with Montreal and then antagonizing the Rangers as a member of the Anaheim, then Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. He signed that 1 year deal at 35 in 2010, was the Rangers' primary DH, won a Silver Slugger, was an All-Star, finished top 11 in MVP voting. 11. He finished 11 in the MVP. I don't know why I'm saying top 11. Like if he was number 10, I'd say top 11 in MVP voting. He hit 300 for the year, had an on base of 345, slugged 496, 29 home runs, 115 ribbies, somehow 4 stolen bases at the age of 35. When I remember watching him in the outfield for those couple of games when the Rangers played some NL games and there was not the universal DH at that point, he looked just very stiff. Of 119 OPS plus. Yeah, he was fantastic for the Rangers. He was just so good. He was exactly what they needed. That veteran batting cleanup, providing that protection. There was no Adrian Beltre out at that time. There was just some Elvis Andrus. There was some Michael Young in there. There was some Ian Kinsler in there. And, he was, besides Josh Hamilton, obviously, that year, winning AL MVP, he was the Rangers' pretty much their second best bat that season. He was just so good, so consistent, such a veteran presence, such a calming presence in that lineup. The first team to ever win a playoff series. He was really darn good for the Rangers in the playoffs with a couple of very, very big clutch hits for Texas. He had that big old hit, 3 RBIs in the ALCS against those vaunted Yankees. Somehow only walked twice in that postseason run. Didn't have a postseason home run with the Rangers, but still was that threatening, menacing presence in the middle of the Rangers lineup and helped the Rangers en route to their first appearance in the World Series. Alas, not their first World Series title. The next guy on this list is a guy who made his second ever All-Star appearance in 1 year with the Texas Rangers. Switched from shortstop to center field. That's right, I'm talking about Ian Desmond, the 2016 marvelous 1 year Ranger. Played 156 games that year. Had a 2020 season, 22 home runs, 21 stolen bases. Made the All-Star team. He was a shortstop for his entire career. Had played the outfield only a couple of games, a handful of games early on in his career with the Washington Nationals. The Rangers said, hey, we see you as a pretty decent shortstop, but what if you tried center field? And he was excellent for that Rangers team, a Rangers team that needed an extra bat, wasn't quite getting the production that they hoped they would get out of Prince Fielder. Still had peak Adrian Beltre, still had, they still had Elvis Andrus, they had Rugi that year, and they just needed that one more bat and help the Rangers win another AL West title, their second consecutive AL West title in 2016. And then he signed a big old deal with the Colorado Rockies and was terrible for the rest of his career. I mean, the Rockies said, hey, we saw you switch positions from shortstop to center field. What if we paid you a whole bunch of money to play first base? And it didn't really work out for him or the Rockies. But get that bag, Ian Desmond. That 1 year in Texas was a fantastic 1 year Ranger, one of the best 1 year Rangers. Now, the other ones here, I mean, you have David Robertson, who's coming off of a fantastic season, but Kirby Yates has got to be the best 1 year reliever that the Rangers have ever had. I mean, a 1.17 ERA, 61 and 2/3 innings, 85 strikeouts, 12.4 Ks per nine, finished top 10 in Cy Young voting, the highest he ever finished in Cy Young voting in his career, was an All-Star, was absolutely fantastic, and unfortunately just wasn't able to stick around for more than one season. Would have loved to seen him be a multi-year Ranger, but I think this one and done 1.17 ERA season was gotta be. It's the best that I've ever seen in my obsessive watching of the Rangers since 2010. I went back and did some research, and this is just, it's an all-time great relief season in general. It's one of the best relief seasons that the Rangers have ever had, and so for that reason, he has got to be the best 1 year Rangers reliever. In terms of rentals, there have been a lot of decent rentals. I mean, in terms of just the 1 year guys, I looked at Giovanni Gallardo. If he had not come back for those 18 starts with Texas in 2018. That 1 year in 2015 where he had a 4-WAR season, 3.5-ish ERA and right under 185 innings when the Rangers really needed bulk in the rotation in 2015. If not for that reunion in 2018, he would definitely be on this list. And then you have the mid-season trade acquisitions that were rentals. Cliffley's got to be among the top of that list, if not Jordan Montgomery. I think Cliffley's got to be ahead of Montgomery, even though the Rangers didn't win the World Series with Cliffley. I mean, there's no way in heck they get there. I mean, the same thing could be said for Jordan Montgomery, not just what he did as a playoff ace, shutting down those Astros and, shutting down the Rays in that first game, setting the tone of that perfect road record that will never, ever be matched. And then, unfortunately, not coming back to Texas, going to Arizona, the team who the Rangers beat in that World Series, and having just an abject, terrible 2024 season. I mean, for that reason, Montgomery is a hero for all time. Also, Will Smith, World Series hero. In that first half, he's really an unsung hero because of how bad he was in the second half. But in the first half of the season with the Rangers bullpen, everybody in that bullpen was terrible. Will Smith was the one constant. He kept the Rangers afloat. He kept them from losing even more winnable games than they already did in that first half. And for that reason, Will Smith gets an honorable mention. It's not the best one-year Ranger, but pretty much anybody who was a one-year Ranger, anybody who was a one-year Ranger on that 2023 team is definitely amongst, if not the best, then at least the most beloved one-year Rangers of all time. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.